Welcome to this edition of the Overland Workshop. In this series of Overland Workshops, I'm talking about game changers in the world of four-wheel drive and overland expedition travel. And this time we're going to talk about differential locks. In 2016, while driving the trails of Death Valley in California, a perfect example of the benefits of axle differential locks presented itself.
Come straight on up.
Left foot braking.
The Tundra I'm driving has no diff locks, but the Tundra Jeremy is driving has a rear locker, and it made all the difference. So I think we'll all agree that differential locks can be a huge advantage off-road, but they're now commonplace standing in the world of four-wheel drives has been the cause of an overall decline in driver skill levels.
That was good fun, eh?
That was great direction.
That was good fun.
So I say, guys, stop using your diff locks so much. I'm Andrew St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and travelling to the remotest parts of the world. Differential locks, while the technology is not new at all, the availability of differential locks on vehicles that one can buy from the showroom, such as my Land Cruiser behind me, is relatively new. Now let's think about the first vehicle commonly used. I'm talking about, to be very clear, not center transmission differential locks, but axle differential locks. Fundamental difference between the two. So what's happening is all the energy from the engine is being transmitted to that one wheel. If we did the same with one of the rear wheels, exactly the same would happen. For this vehicle to have any proper four-wheel drive transmission working, one has to lock the center differential. It's very important that you understand it. I'm talking about the ability to lock a left and right wheel on an axle. And the first ones that I can think of, road-going vehicles, Mercedes Geländewagen in 1979 might have been one of the very first. I'm not clear about what was happening in North America at that time, but certainly in Europe, the Geländewagen came standard with front and rear lockers.
The rear differential lock. It's hydraulic. A relic from the military designs of this front differential lock.
Now, rear lockers were not common, became common, and even today, both back and front lockers as standard equipment is still quite rare. A rear locker is a very useful item, front locker for much more extreme driving. My Land Cruiser, the 70 series, in its top spec form, for example, we get in Australia, comes with electrical actuated differential locks on the front and rear axles. Geländewagen was the first. Then there was a Land Cruiser 105 specification that also had a front as well as a rear locker. By that time, that would have been 97, I think, when the 100 was introduced. And it was from this time that manufacturers began offering rear lockers on many vehicle types, such as four-wheel drive station wagons and even some two-wheel drive pickups. But the way I see differential locks is that they are a blessing and a curse. Differential locks are marvellous when the vehicle is going to start lifting wheels, which means when the traction is compromised by lumps, where occasionally a wheel will come off the ground, and of course with an open differential, when a wheel comes off the ground, it takes all of the power, it spins and takes all of and so the wheel remaining on the ground, and the only one with the possibility of tractive effort, because it's the only one touching the ground, has no power going to it at all, zero. So then, of course, there was a limited slip, which meant that in that situation, that wheel on the ground would have some tractive effort, not all. And a differential lock, of course, it has all the tractive effort both wheels will rotate at the same time, no matter what. And so a vehicle with both front and rear lockers will actually have all four wheels rotating at exactly the same speed, no matter what. And the trouble is with that, the reason for the differential, of course, is that when a vehicle moves around a corner, its inside wheel rotates at a lower speed than its outside wheel. The differential allows the differential in wheel rotational speeds. So if you lock all the wheels together, what happens? The vehicle won't turn. If you lock a front differential, your steering, the ability to steer the vehicle probably is reduced, depending on the tractive surface, but 70-80%. It's massive. So sometimes we'll do a track or trail and just leave the rear locker on, but we can't leave the front locker on because we wouldn't be able to steer properly. So here's the thing. This is why I think it's a bit of the other side of it is that it's a curse. People just lock their diffs. They see a climb, they just lock it. They just lock. Like we used to engage four-wheel drive or engage low range or do something to the machinery to engage it for the track ahead, the obstacle ahead. Most modern drivers reach for the differential lock, and which means that the vehicle are more capable off-road than they used to be. They are far more capable off-road, largely because of differential locks and traction controls. And some vehicles even have both. Now you've taken a vehicle like the Jeep Rubicon, Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. It's probably the best off-road vehicle off the shelf available in the world today. I think I'm reasonably safe in saying so. They are superb off-road vehicles, but they have been developed as such. They knock most vehicles standard out of the park. You can't compare them. But it's got traction control and lockers. So what people do is that they just lock them. And it's amazing! How much does the driver learn is my point. While the benefits of axle lockers is undeniable, there is a downside to them as well.
Try that, you're just going to ride this high.
The trail in California was the Steel Pass in Death Valley.
Okay, is the vehicle going to tilt a lot? I'm just worried about the height in this rock.
My 2008 Tundra, no differential locks, and I struggled.
You're just going to come straight on, and I'll watch the camper.
I just couldn't drive slowly enough to make sure that the body would be protected from accidental bumping on the rocks.
I'm so terrified of smacking this canopy on this thing because it'll damage it very badly if I do it. I really don't want to do it. I've got to come on flat onto the face.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to save the height.
Right.
And the penalty is we're just twisting up. I think that I need to actually go back.
Come this way.
And it's a much steeper climb, but at least it's flat. Okay, gonna try.
You got it. You can get on that rock, you got it. You cleared it by about 2 inches. You've just got it. So.
Okay, well, 2 down, 2 to go.
2 to go.
Okay, good.
However, Jeremy's 2013 Tundra, with its rear differential lock, meant that he could travel really slowly, really carefully.
Is aim for this here. We're going to climb up the section where it's black.
And while neither vehicle was damaged, the potential for me to damage mine was far higher. This is where differential locks are really valuable and should be used.
So how was that?
Hold that.
Hey?
That was fantastic.
That was bloody good fun,
great.
eh?
That was great direction.
That was good fun, that was.
So some people would say, well, if you've got the tools, then use them. I don't have a problem with that. Other than to say, well, how about adding another tool? You've got differential locks, you've got traction control, and there's something else that you can add as well. Well, what's that? Skill. Driver skill. And you will only ever learn that driver skill. Yes, I'm ranting. You will only learn that driver skill if you leave the differential locks off. The trouble is, if we're driving with our mates, we want to look good. We want to look as if we're really in charge, skillfully driving our vehicle over all of this difficult terrain. Meanwhile, we're relying almost all on the machinery and very little on our own ability. Good for the ego, not so good for driving skills. You will only learn the best line, the best, weight transfer. I've got weight coming down now. I need, don't turn up against the gravity here. Let the wheel get traction first before I turn. If you've got differential locks, you turn any time and the thing will just go. Up to a point, obviously. Without differential locks on, you'll go and the vehicle will stop. Now you're learning. Okay, come back a bit, turn it a bit. If I do that and let it, okay, now turn, because now I've got more traction on my right wheel. Now if I turn, okay, and you go up. You cannot learn that skill with a differential lock because it'll just go around. Stop using your differential locks all the time, guys. Stop it. Learn. And when eventually you think, I can't do it, it won't go up, lock your lockers. Because now you know the limitations of your vehicle. You've suddenly learned something that you would have never have learned before. The limitations of your vehicle. So now when it gets tough, you lock, you've got the traction aids, and you've got this, and you know, because you've learnt it, and you become a good driver. Not just an average driver. Everybody with a Jeep Rubicon can lock it up and get up the slope. Actually, some even mess that up and just completely ridiculous. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Why not learn? So yes, differential locks in vehicles like these make them far more potent off-road machines than they used to be. There's no question about it. But they also take away a fundamental tool, and that is skill.
But here is the other side of that argument, and that really has to do with ethics. If you're driving, for example, off a beach, and there are great big holes that have been made by people driving with tire pressures that are too hard, or maybe they're trying to pull a trailer off the beach and it's not that easy, and they've spun their wheels and they've made big holes. Should you lock your diff or not? Well, yes, because you've got people behind you. You're going to have people coming after you. And if you are going to make those holes even bigger, deeper, because you're playing and honing your skills, then is it fair on those other people that are driving behind you that maybe don't have differential locks or don't have your skills? And then they dig the holes, and eventually the result is, as we all know, tracks with enormous holes in them that are actually quite unnecessary. So here's my thought on that. Ethical four-wheel driving means that you take care of the track. You don't dig big holes by reducing tire pressures and not spinning your wheels. And if not spinning wheels means locking your differential, then you lock your differential. If you are playing with your mates and you're just experimenting and you're just That's when I'm saying don't use the differential locks, because digging a hole doesn't really matter, because you're playing. The primary objective of what you're doing is having fun and learning, not getting from A to B where you've got people coming behind you. It's not unlike if you see a tree that's broken down, a branch that's broken down. Well, get out and move it, as opposed to driving around it and making the track even wider. Some will say, well, we'll even do that with a puddle in the middle of the road. Don't drive around the puddle and make the track wider, just drive through the middle of the puddle. Well, that's stretching it a little bit, because the middle of the puddle is, assuming it has water in it, is going to be hidden, and there might be sticks and logs and stuff in there that could damage the vehicle, tires or whatever. So one would go around it. So here, it's a balance, like everything. If you can avoid making the track wider, then do so. If making the track wider is at the cost of damaging your vehicle, then they're not going to, are you? And is it realistic to ask you to? Well, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. That's for you to decide. For me personally, if you drive with the idea that I'm going to look after the track that I'm driving on by not being let me think, what's a good word? Not being an idiot, then you are driving in an ethical way. So that's the other side to my argument, is that actually, most importantly, we can't be selfish when we learn how to drive our four-wheel drives well. We actually have to think about the people coming behind us. And if that means locking a diff, then lock your diff. But also find those moments where by not locking it, you can learn to be a better driver. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss our weekly videos.